enjoyed bartending. So it was really fun. It was my personality. And there's been a time or two where I'm like, okay, I got to figure out a different solution. Like
I was getting decision fatigue. And so welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Be Somebody podcast. It's all about intentional living. And today I have a dear friend with me and somebody that I have worked with on many instances in the professional world, Laura Kinser.
hello, how are you?
I'm so good, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
You look so good in a yellow chair.
I like the yellow chair. This is fun. The color is fun.
We're trying to make it pop a little bit.
You know.
You get that.
Yep, I do.
Laura, tell people how we met.
Oh man, a mutual friend introduced us, I think at a BNI, like at least 5 years ago, probably a little longer, at least that long, because I haven't been in a BNI in 5 years.
Yeah.
They're wonderful, just it didn't work with my lifestyle anymore. So it was a great thing, but I think we hit it off. There was you were starting your business, and then once you got rolling, we really started to connect and work together.
I remember that. It was Drew Kimball.
It was.
And I had made his video. He wanted to do a video presentation for BNI. So I went and followed him for the day and I did it. And I remember at that time, I wasn't even like good at color correcting and things, but I was able to piece together a story.
Yeah.
This is before Matthew Coles was a part of the team. And so he really elevated us.
Very good human. We like to work with him too.
we do. Shout out to Matt Coles. I remember going to that BNI meeting and I remember being like, look, I like Drew. I'm going to go to this. But I always feel like BNI, like I'd been to one before and it was just one of those things where I'm like, half of it felt forced to me. The other half was like, okay, you meet some people.
Yeah.
But I remember you came up to me and you're like, hey, we should talk. I do photography. And I'm like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember you call one day and you're like, dude, come downtown. I think it was a Hyatt Regency right next to the Salt Palace.
Yeah.
And you're like, you and Matt, I've got this event. I need video. I'm going to be doing photos and we'll just boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And you had two events in the same building that day. You were bouncing between floors doing corporate headshots and event photography. And I am sitting there being like, she is it.
Or
like,
nuts.
she is next level. She's just rocking, composed, all of it. We even made like a little quick video being like, yo, it's Bobby and Laura together.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And that event, ever since then, we've done many events together.
Yes, we have.
And you are a rock star photographer.
Oh, thank you. I've worked many years to get where I am and keep learning and keep trying.
So then walk me through how you chose that as a profession.
Oh man. So kind of the same story as a lot of photographers. I started when I was really young. I had a little pink Barbie camera. I wasn't even into Barbies, but I had a pink, it was a 110 little pink Barbie camera. And I would save my allowance or my, whatever jobs I did, I would save my money and walk up to the Rite Aid and get my film developed and buy a new roll. And like, I did that for years and years. And then the only AP class I ever took in high school was photography. And so I knew it was kind of a thing. I had a note from my teacher's handwriting with no date on it that said I could come to the photo room whenever I needed to. So I would skip out of other classes and go to the photo room, and just loved it. And so ever since then, it was always a thing I did on the side. I went into some other careers for a hot minute and just decided that was not the thing. So I ended up going to photography school. And so I went all the way to Western Massachusetts to go to photography school for a year. Came out thinking I was going to photograph cars and like trade magazines, and totally not what I'm doing now, but I still love photography and do it every day.
So how'd you get into what you're doing now? Because now you are a corporate photographer. Tell us what that entails.
So yes, I am a corporate photographer. I specialize in headshots, branding images. So basically corporate stock images, but specialized for each different business. So it's their own people and that kind of thing. And then I do a lot of corporate events. So trade shows, conferences, conventions. We do a lot of headshot stations at those where we have a lounge where people can come get their headshots. Basically, it's really fancy swag, all those different kinds of things. But anything business related is really what I do. And I really have stuck with that. And I love it. I love the clients that I work with. I got into that because after photography school, I had lived in Vegas prior to that and moved back to Vegas, and Vegas is the convention capital of the world. And so I started doing conventions there, and that really kind of pushed into a lot of events. So I did events. And then kind of started to add in the headshots. Now we're here. I've moved a couple times. I've lived in Denver and started my business over, and then moved back here where I grew up and started my business over. And so I have a lot of startup knowledge for businesses and help and know what businesses need in their imagery and in their social media so that they can I know how to get images for businesses so they can use it in their social media, use it on their website, all those different kinds of things.
Great storyteller through photography.
Oh, thank you.
It's true. I think that you are the female version of the Dos Equis man, where you're the most interesting woman in the world.
Well, thank you. That is a wonderful compliment.
They let you touch the photographs at museums, the art, so to speak.
I'd be the one sneaking in to touch those. Yeah. I'm not sure if they'd let me, but I'd be the one sneaking in.
We had another gentleman on the podcast named Byrne, and he kind of fits this mold too. He just has such an interesting life that I'm just like, Byrne, everybody just needs to like grab a beverage, whatever they're drinking, bring your own beverage and have a chat with Byrne, right? And I feel like you are a female version of that, where it's like, you've got this life experience. You've had adversity in your life. You've had success in your life. You have a family. You have to try and balance. I'm like giving away the whole show, all these questions I'm going to ask right now. You have to try and balance a career with family. Like, these are things that people who watch this are probably curious about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with this. Let's go the family angle.
Okay.
You have built an incredible business. It requires you to travel a lot.
Yes.
I happen to know your husband works in the medical industry.
Yep.
And you have a family. So tell me, how does this all work?
Marry a very cool dude. That's my first, marry someone who is your partner and respects what you do. I have the best husband. In turn, that created 2 really cool kids. My kids are used to traveling. So my son, before he was 2, did over 20 flights.
Amazing.
Because I would take him with me. And sometimes I'd have to take my mom so that she would watch him, or I'd go to work in Vegas where my brother lives. So I just took him with me. Having a second one, it's really much harder to take both. So we figured that out. But my husband is a surgical tech. He works up at the U and loves his job. He used to be it's kind of strange. He used to be in the culinary. He was a chef for 15 years. And we figured out the things that he liked in his job, that he uses tools and cleanliness and systems, and that really somehow translates to an OR. It's really cool, and he loves it. But his schedule is very set. He has the same schedule every week. He gets done at the same time every day. It's very predictable.
And does he like that?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. That is totally his thing, and he loves that when he's done with work, he is done. Being an entrepreneur, you're never done.
Yep.
There's always something else to do. There's always something else on your mind. My brain goes about a zillion miles an hour. Half the time when I'm talking to him, especially, I don't finish sentences. He's like, could you finish that sentence before you move on to the next?
Oh, my wife's going to like this episode.
And so that gives me a little bit more framework where when I travel, I know, okay, Chris works late on Wednesday nights. So Wednesday nights I have to have a babysitter, or I have to have my mom come, or just the different things there. And so we've really built around that, where he's got this set schedule and I just have to fill in the little pieces around that. My older son is 9, is in school. The younger one goes to daycare. And so we know the parameters that we have to work around. And so basically my husband's like, go do what you got to do. Obviously make time for the family, but as long as you find a sitter or have childcare around when I'm working, otherwise I got it. So he is just the best.
Just spot on. So has there ever been a point where you're just burned out and you're like, screw it?
Actually, no.
Okay.
No, I don't. There's been a time or two where I'm like, okay, I got to figure out a different solution. Like in the last 2 years, I've been trying to travel a little less. So I've had some clients that are wonderful, but I've had them for 15 years and maybe they haven't come up in budget with the growth that I've done.
Of course.
Or they don't fit my lifestyle, or it's like I can't be, there's only so many days of the year. And some of those days I need to be with my family. So I've just had some of the travel stuff. I either have to send one of my associates who are amazing and I've trained to do what I do, or I've just had to say, you know what? I have some really great referrals for you in that market, but it just can't be me this time. So in the last year or two, I've kind of turned down the travel a little. I still love to travel. I still want to travel. But sometimes you have to say no. And I'm learning to do that because I'm not very good at saying no.
I just listened to an audiobook within the last 3 months, and it is 2 hours long. So it's a speed listen.
Okay.
It is called The Art of Saying No.
Yeah.
Because I am a people pleaser.
Yes.
And there's this part of me that just wants to grow my business and hey, I can take that on and I'll figure it out. And I thrive in chaos and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then you wake up one day and you're like, oh my goodness, look at this mess I've created for myself. This mess of busyness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so I can relate
For sure.
to that.
Yep. And some of it is just like I get behind on like the clerical stuff because I love shooting and I love my clients. So I want to do what I can for them. I really can say I have awesome clients. Like I don't know if it's law of attraction. I don't know exactly what it is, but my clients are all super cool. And with a lot of them we've become friends. So it's just so much easier. Like it's not going to a job.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, these are my people. We're going to go hang out. We're going to make some magic and be done. So it's really cool. And some of them, I have the same job every year. So it's like a reunion every year. Like we get back together and go, what were you guys up to this year? You know, a couple of them I've had for so long that they knew me before I was even married and had kids.
Wow.
And they're very similarly, they were the same way. And so we've all kind of grown up together. And so that's just, it makes it kind of fun where it's not so much, client and photographer. It's, you know, we're all together. We're all there for the same purpose to make some awesome images while they're doing their conference or whatever. And so it makes it really hard when you have to say no to that. But sometimes you do because my people, meaning my family, are a number one. With a hard second is my business for sure.
Yeah. How did you get to the point? I mean, did you just decide that from day one where you're like, no, family's first and this is what it is? I've had, let me, I'll ask that, then I'll tell you why I asked that.
I've had to be reminded that family is number one. They always are like in my head, but then I get busy and like, I still feel like I hang out with them all the time. So it's not a big deal. But when I was pregnant with my first kid, I was working full-time photography. I was bartending and I think I was working another job just so I could get free workouts. I was working at Pure Barre like once a week so I could get free workouts. And my husband says to me, and he does not tell me what to do because he knows that's not a great idea. But he says, you really can only pick two and one has to be the kid. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I'm pregnant. So one has to be the kid. And obviously the second one was going to be photography. And so I had to let some other things go, which were so wonderful. I actually really enjoyed bartending. So it was really fun. It was my personality. You know,
you're a people person.
I'm a people person. I made lots of friends where I had lots of regulars. So it was slightly hard to let go. Now I'm, you know, fully immersed in my business and I'm really glad it was the right decision. And he knew that. But basically I had to be reminded that I can't do everything. I can do whatever I want, but I can't do everything.
I love that reminder. I almost launched a website once called 1000interests.com because that's me. Yeah. I'm like, oh, golf? Sure, I'll learn how to golf.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, this? Okay, cool. Yeah, and I want to play in a tennis league, and I want to play pickleball, and I want to play basketball, and I want to do this, this, and this. And that's just on the sports side. What about all these other things?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And it's one of those things. Somebody asked me the other day, hey, when was the last time you played ball? Because basketball has been a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And the person who asked this to me, we played high school basketball together. And I was like, honestly, I bet it's been 8 months since I played 5-on-5. And he looked at me and he was like,
are you okay?
That surprises me. And and it was like this almost like look of concern. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm having to make these decisions right now. And I can do a quick workout at my house, or I can go hit my 8,000 to 10,000 steps by,
walking around a convention.
Yes, exactly. Right. Anytime you do an event, you're like, wow, 20,000.
Yes. Yep.
And really now what has happened to me is it's about the exercise every day
Yep.
and less about, oh, it's got to be through basketball.
That is the mental clarity that has saved my sanity. I'm not kidding. Having a workout even a couple times a week. So I like to go, and so I'm usually a control freak a little bit. But I like to go to a workout where it's a class. Because for 1 hour, I want to not have my phone, and I want someone else to tell me what to do, because I don't want to have to think about anything. So
love that.
I even turn my watch. I like it there for the workout to track the workout, but I turn it to silent mode. So if it goes off, I'm not looking at it going like, oh, so-and-so needs this or so-and-so needs that or whatever. Like, I love that 1 hour where I just go and I can't think of anything else but how hard this workout is. It has saved my sanity. And I really think that's a big part of why I haven't burned out.
I love that. You just hit on something that I'll give a different example from my own life. And I just realized this about myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes Heidi will come to me and she'll be like, hey, I need ideas for dinner. And I realized it would stress me out. And because I'm the least picky eater in this world. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, like, can't we just go to the internet? And can't we just do this? And sometimes I would do that. Solution guy would be like, here's 500 ideas for dinner. Here you go. And never ask me the question again. I realized it wasn't that I don't have ideas for dinner. And it wasn't that I didn't want to help her. It's that I have to make so many decisions in a day. I was getting decision fatigue. And so her asking me like, hey, what are some ideas for dinner? It was stressing me out because I then felt responsible for one more thing.
Yep.
And I'm like, I wanted to come home and I want my responsibility to be my kids. Like this business is taking so much of my time and energy. And then I come home and it takes everything I have to be the dad that I want to be. So then sometimes it's just that tipping point of like, what should I make for dinner? Give me 15 ideas. I'm like,
So I have 2 points on that.
please.
So one is it's her mental load that she's trying to get a little help with.
Yeah.
So that's why she's asking. She's probably got a few ideas, but it's the mental load of that shared thing. The second part for my husband, I know that he doesn't want to get it wrong. Like if I ask him what he wants for dinner, he wants to make me happy. He says stuff like, whatever makes you happy. I just want to make you happy, which to me, honestly, it annoys me because I'm like, just decide. And I figured it out that it's not that he's trying to cop out. It's not that he's like, he just wants to make me happy. So he doesn't want to get it wrong. Like he thinks I have something in my head, he wants to make sure that that's what we do. Like he's super awesome. And it took me a long time to figure it out because for a while I just was like, that's just a cop out. And then it was changing my thinking and realizing that no, he's just trying to, do what I want and make sure that everyone's happy.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Isn't it funny how these things like surface in marriages? And it's like, for me, it's not the way that we squeeze toothpaste. It's like, I have decision fatigue.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I get that a lot because I was laughing the other day at something like he's very carefree. And I'm like this and that and deciding this. And do we do this? And like a zillion miles an hour, again, not finishing sentences and jumping from thing to thing and whatever. And that's just how my brain works. And I'm realizing that that's not how his brain works. I always think it's funny when girls will ask guys, what are you thinking about? And if you're not an entrepreneur, most guys are probably not thinking. They're just like, I wonder, what's happening on Mars? And girls, like, they don't get it that they're not thinking about anything. They're just like, figuring stuff out, doing another thing. And, but entrepreneurs are a special breed.
Oh, yeah. The other day, this is last night at like 10:30 at night. I'm just like, I didn't realize I was doing it. And I'm going to look over here, not at you, not at the camera to illustrate this. I'm just like staring like this. Mm-hmm. And I'm in full conversation with my wife, but I'm just staring. And we had like a little lull, maybe 30 seconds. And there I am just staring. I was looking at the leg of a kitchen table, but it wasn't about the leg of the kitchen table. This is entrepreneur brain.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like this pretty heavy solution with a client.
Yeah.
But then I like almost felt bad in the moment that I was thinking about that because it's 10:30 at night and I wasn't thinking about that while I was engaged in the conversation with my wife, but there was a lull in the conversation. And so then all of a sudden it's just like,
squirrel.
next in line, whoosh, right here. Hey, I want your attention, Bobby. And then she looks at me and she's like, what are you thinking about? And I'm just like, well, how deep do I go right now? Because then I got to give you a ton of context on the situation to let you know why I'm thinking about this, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just always there.
It's always there. You always want more. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just always hungry for more. And
sometimes people get that question of like, okay, you win $1 million today. What do you do? Right. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, all I know is I'm still going to be working tomorrow.
Yep.
Like, because I have to do something.
Yeah.
And so even if it's not Macy Media, maybe I start a YouTube channel that money's not an issue, or maybe I do this, but there's gotta be a creative component to it. There's gotta be a work component to it, because that gives me a sense of purpose that is in a different bucket than the purpose that family gives me or religion gives me or some of these other things. And sometimes they're interrelated.
Yeah, for sure.
But
it absolutely would still work.
Yeah.
If I was worth whatever I needed to not work for another day in my life, I would still go out and work. I would still want to hang out with my clients. I would still want to go do a lot of the things. Like, I maybe would slow. No, I wouldn't slow down. Not in my nature.
So here's a question for you. A lot of what I do on this podcast is I focus on intentional living, right? And life lessons. Like, I'm a big analogy guy, and I want to know, like, here's a question. What has photography taught you about life? Like, if you were to say like life lessons from a photographer's viewpoint, what would those be? People
are important. That is my big, because I photograph people, that is my big thing, is making people feel important, feel like their best selves. People are everything.
I love that. That's going on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I love interacting with people. I love how different people are. Everyone has their own thing and is insecure about something or is confident about something. And I just love to learn what people are into and what they want to do next and how they're growing, or maybe they're having a hard time and how they're dealing with that. Just all sorts of different things. I love the people stuff. And I actually find that in my headshots as well, where even just in faces, expressions, all those different things, it's people stuff. And everyone has their own things that they're again, confident about in their face, and they're not confident about their face, or they're worried about something, but they're just, everyone has their own stuff and everyone is so different. And I love that.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you for that. You can answer this however you want. Obviously, the choice is yours at Chuckarama. I've been wanting to say that on the podcast for a long time, and I finally worked it in. They're the unofficial sponsor of this video. Okay, they don't even know they are.
Do you want to know a fun fact about Chuckarama?
Yes.
So in an in-between job, my husband worked at a company called eGlab where they do sanitation for restaurants. Neither of us are huge into buffets, but he said if I ever was going to go eat at a buffet, it'd be Chuckarama. They're very clean, and they switch out their food so regularly and do smaller dishes that he's like, and they make a lot of it homemade. He's all for it.
This is music to my soul.
Who would have known?
That is so funny because, Kate, so Heidi is going to love this because, well, she's not going to love that part because my family is a Chuckarama family. My grandpa he used to take us there when we were kids.
Oh, funny.
My dad was, and he loved it. And he was like the 3-hour guy where it was like, oh, I'm staying here because
I'm making my money's worth.
Yeah, I'm only paying once and I'm getting 2 meals out of this. And as a kid, I'm sitting there and I'm like, can we go now? Yeah. And, and I don't have a place to run around there or whatever. And so it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Occasionally my family will get together and we'll like all the siblings and there's a group of us. Like I think with grandkids included and everything, there's like 45 of us now.
Yeah. On my mom's side, there's about 40 of us.
Yeah. And so it's a big event and we'll be like, let's go celebrate Randy Macy, my dad, because he passed in 2019. Yeah. And so we'll go to Chuckarama occasionally. But it's funny because Heidi and I there are certain dishes that we like there, but sometimes we'll go there and Heidi and I both, she's just doesn't hide, the face as well.
Oh, I like her already.
Yes. And so you will like her when you meet her. We'll go there and she'll be like visibly disgusted. Like, and it's not necessarily because there's a mess or anything. It's because there's all these people grabbing the same spoons and da 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 da. But
apparently they change them out.
apparently they change them out.
Really regularly.
I love that. Maybe I'm going to Chuckarama for the holidays. That's so funny. Okay, so now that we've had that deep soul food chat,
there you go.
What is a time in your life where you experienced adversity, and what did you do to bounce back and overcome that?
Thinking more personally or more?
It can be anything.
The last few years have been interesting, really good. And I mean, obviously we all had adversity through COVID. I remember canceling $60,000 of business in one day.
Oh my goodness.
Not to mention all the days before and after, but that was the highest. That was a rough day.
Yes.
But something, I don't know what changed since COVID, but my business has skyrocketed since then. I thought I had a good business before COVID, and it has skyrocketed since. So where there was a downturn, it comes back up. And similarly, personally, we've had some deaths in the, my brother passed. One of my very best friends very suddenly died of cancer in the last few years. And not only does that affect your personal life and whatnot, but it affects your business. Having to either postpone shoots or have one of my associates cover it, or, just different things affect you in different times, where you have these kind of roller coasters where you're like, oh, wow, I thought I was doing really well. And the next day you're like, I maybe need a minute. But having to charge through and still do business and still take care of your family and do all the things, it can make it really hard. But that's part of life, and you just got to keep trucking.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So how do you compartmentalize this? This is a question from me to you, like deeply, like I'm curious, because this will happen in my life. Something hard's going on, and then all of a sudden it's like I flip a switch and I'm people person Bobby.
Yep.
I'm there. And it's not that I'm not willing to let people into my life. I believe I am. It's that I recognize that, hey, the job needs to be done. And the way that I do the job is what sets me apart.
Absolutely.
The way that I engage with these people. Yes. So how can I put these feelings that I'm having off to the side for just a moment while I am smiling and I'm cracking jokes and I'm making people comfortable in front of the camera to capture those micro expressions, et cetera. And that's something that sometimes, like, Heidi will look at me and she'll be like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know if it's a gift. I don't know if it's a curse. I don't know. I just do it.
I think it's a form of healing, or to me, it's a gift, because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Once I walk onto a job, whatever is going on in my life, it doesn't exist, or like I have to handle stuff. Like
pause.
It's just a pause. If I have to handle something, I'll handle it. But mostly I walk on with a great attitude. Whatever else is going on, it doesn't exist to the client. And honestly, for those couple hours or whatever on that job, it doesn't exist to me either, which is almost cathartic, where for a couple minutes, you don't have to be in the grief, or you don't have to be in the low. You can just go and be happy and help someone. That's a big one, I think, is helping other people. Even if you're getting paid, if you're still helping other people, that makes a big difference. But then, because you're always going to come back to it, and it's okay to feel down sometimes, and it's okay to not be okay. But for me, it's not okay to not be okay on a job.
Yeah.
So those are that. But I do the same thing as you, where once I step in, it's go time, and then I can come back to that grief or that sadness or that, whatever's even just chaos.
Yeah.
So I was on a job in Vegas the other day for a very big company, and literally 30 minutes before my daughter was supposed to be picked up, my babysitter calls and says, I've been puking all day. I can't pick up Robin. And I'm like, if you've been puking all day, why wouldn't you call me earlier?
Yeah.
Luckily, I have really amazing people in my life that can handle it. So all I had to do was step away, say, hey, I need a minute. I made a phone call. It was fixed. Everything worked out fine. But, those things come up, and it never fails that one of my kiddos will be sick only when I'm out of town. Like, that never fails. And they're always fine when I'm home, which is kind of nice because then I get the fun, playtime. But
I think our lives mirror each other in certain ways.
yeah. So we have that little bit of like, sometimes you do have to step away and handle something, but it's, I'm not going to let that affect the job.
Yeah. Well, you do fantastic work. So there are a bajillion questions I could ask you. And obviously I know that you have a life, so I need to be respectful of that. I want to say this. One, heart to heart, I appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. You have been awesome to Matt and I in incorporating us into these events, but there have also been many times where I have sent you voice DMs or texts or whatever and been like, hey, this is a scenario. Any recommendations? I remember in Denver, I asked you something because Matt and I were going on a shoot, and you are a much more experienced photographer than I am. And while I'm confident in my work, there are scenarios that I haven't dealt with. So you had mentioned before that you're going to launch a course, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait. But I am so appreciative because there have even been times where you didn't have to do this, but you've said to me, you're like, hey, buddy, we need to talk about your pricing packages. You're not charging enough. And I looked at that, and I also know that if I was charging too much, you would look at me and say, hey, dude, you're charging a little too much for this.
Yeah.
And I'm just deeply grateful for that. So thank you.
Oh, well, I'm appreciative that I can trust you guys to come on my jobs and represent my company as well. Like we trade off that where we do that. And so those kinds of things. And the fact that we can help each other. Like you guys actually have done some videos for me and my company that I'm happy to, I share with the world that tell a story about my business. And you guys have done that. And I love that. And then just having you guys on jobs where you guys are part of my company in that scenario. So it's really been such a wonderful partnership, and I'm really grateful for it. Not to mention, I really do love our little voice chats back and forth when we're just kind of venting about business, because sometimes you have to have someone else who understands.
Yes. Yep. Hey, can I just say this real quick? I don't even need a solution. I just need to get it off my mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So I love that.
Well, likewise, my friend. So the final question that I always ask on this podcast to my guests is this. Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Right. No pressure.
What does it mean to you to be somebody?
To me, being somebody goes back to the people thing. Can you be somebody that helps others? Can you be someone that is maybe a light in someone else's life, or just happy, or someone that they can trust? I was listening to a podcast the other day about trusting other people and asking for help. And sometimes I'm not very good at asking for help, and I'm getting better at it. But what he said was even more interesting was you need people in your life who you can call and celebrate with. Think about it. You could call a lot of people and say, I need help with this, and they're going to come help you. But do you have a couple people in your life that you can call and say, this amazing thing happened to me, and they're happy for you and not jealous, and they're just cheering you on? I want to be that person to as many people as I can in my life. I teach some other photographers, and anytime they call me, I want to be there to help. I want to be there to, we have a weekly call where the first thing we do every week is talk about wins. I want to know, they could be as little as I updated my website, one page of my website, and it could be I got a $10,000 job. Either way, I'm cheering for you. So like being there for someone without judgment, without expectation, without jealousy is really, I feel like, being somebody.
That is money. Hopefully it's still on. Well, thank you, my friend. And to each of you, if you want to see Laura's work, she is on social media, kinserstudios.com. Laura is fantastic. Over and out.